Hello, welcome to the first episode of Who on Earth. This one, it was so serendipitous, and I apologise already for my clearly poor skills in knowing where to place microphones and that this was the first one I'd ever done. But we got there in the end. This one's with Echo Widmer, and I might be accidentally blocking her face, so apologies about that, Echo. But yeah, it's all about seeing somebody coming from such hardship from such an early age and just seeing that fighter spirit taking them beyond what may have originally seemed possible, and then going from thinking you'd found your place, and then Echo all of a sudden makes a U-turn, and that's when you start seeing the shadow integration, the yoga, the classes, the international DJing. So I won't take up too much of the time because the good stuff's on the way. But first, let me just give you a little word about our sponsors. Come here a moment. Do you want to expand your awareness? Tap into your creativity? Well then, you need look no further than Transmute Studios. I want you to picture this. You're there learning traditional African drumming with the mesmerising Mustafa. Or maybe you've gone down to extreme hip hop, where Amy Azari actually makes fitness fun. And for those men out there that really want to see what they're made of, we've got Caveman, high intensity interval training, where Transmute have created a real brotherhood. And it doesn't end there, we've even got transmorphic breathwork by the founder of Transmute himself, Mr. Joshua Obazuki. And let's not forget about the spectacular events that they've got on. We're talking things like Arignani, ceremonial ecstatic dance by the very talented DJ Wizardry. Or maybe you want to indulge yourself. Come to one of the sound baths where you're suspended in hammocks. And speaking of hammocks, meditation with Michael himself also does floating meditation journeys. That's where we're using storytelling, meditation and music to take you on an epic adventure of the imagination there so you can heal, a bit of self-discovery. And they've even got workshops, classes, things like Art of the Cosmos, naturopathic nutrition, tantric exploration, and so much more. So those horizons are waiting to be crossed. Come and dive into the limitless possibilities. Go down to transmutestudio.co.uk, find out where awareness meets creativity. Transmute Studio. Come down and play. Hello then. Welcome to Who on Earth, Echo.
Hello.
So this is the first one. We've had a bit of messing about. I appreciate you being a bit patient with us. But now we're going to find out who on earth Echo is.
Ooh, I'm excited to find out who Echo is.
I'm sure the listeners are.
What are you going to tease out of me, Michael?
Well, I want to start with, how can we find out who somebody is without knowing where they started? So if you could just give the listeners a bit of an insight into where you came from.
Okay, so we're going to be here for a few days.
The accent might be a little giveaway.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say the accent, because I have this idea that I don't have a Texas accent.
Okay.
There's like a pride in I don't sound Texan. I sound worldly. But yes, I'm from Texas, and I'm from a small town in Texas called Cut and Shoot, Texas, which is hilarious because it's actually the name of the town. So cut ampersand, like the little symbol, shoot. And it's just as ironic as you hear it, like who is from that town? And of course it's chicken farmers. And, I say this because I come from this family, like we're very much the hillbilly Texas family that lives on the ranch with all the chickens and the horses. And so I do come from there. And with that background, you can imagine the name of the town. It wasn't the easiest upbringing, being from a place that's kind of named after violent acts, cut and shoot. So childhood was very challenging, but I think anybody that I've met that has like an interesting story doesn't say that it started out so easy and that everything was handed to them.
Yeah.
And for my story, it was quite the opposite. Like there was a lot of scarcity in love, scarcity in resources, in food, in shelter. All of the basic human needs were quite difficult to have met. And in that was like my deepest initiation. Like growing up in that kind of environment pushed me to be a warrior from a very young age. And that was something that brought a lot of respect as I got older. But a lot of people didn't realize that that warrior archetype that I was wearing was actually really harmful for my nervous system and exhausting and all the things. So I had the tough, hillbilly country upbringing, and that made me a bit of a hustler and a bit of a warrior.
A hustler, how so?
I mean, when you come from an environment where you don't have your basic needs met, you have to find creative ways to have your needs met. And I remember not having money and food available. And I think at 12 years old, I started my own business called The Handyman Extraordinaire. And I went around, I was 12. And I went around to all the houses on my block and I said, look, I can wash your dishes, I can mow your lawn, I can watch your baby, whatever you need. Like, just, I need money for food. And because a lot of people on the block knew how hard it was living on that block because we were all struggling, we tried to support each other.
So they understood where you were coming from.
They understood.
They probably respected a little 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Popping up and having that industrious sort of mindset of, I'm going to do something, not rely on somebody else.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Exactly. I think that came out of necessity. Like, it's like I didn't choose to become a warrior or a hustler or strong. You were adaptable. It's like survival of the fittest.
Almost
like it's
fly or die. So
like human being. It's wild to see what clever maladaptive strategies children will take on and embody if they have to. So if you're in an environment that pushes you to basically be parentified very early, you become an adult and you start to parent yourself, I learned that I had to fend for myself. I had to find a way to get food or forage food or steal food or hustle for food. Yeah. And I made it happen.
I can imagine that has its positives and its negatives even to this point now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, now at 39 years old.
39, by the way. If you're on camera and you're watching this on YouTube, you would not believe that she just said that.
I appreciate that. As a woman, I really appreciate that.
Please do let us know what skin cream you're using as well.
Sunshine and water. At 39 years old, this is the kind of work I do now. Like I help people move through their traumas and their shadows and integrate it in a way that is healthy for their systems to receive whatever it is that they need in terms of love and resource, but also to respect and honor that in the individuals that they have in their lives. And so to externalize, healthy relating patterns. But I spent most of my life, even in my 20s and my early 30s, as that maladaptive 6-year-old girl that was surviving on the streets. And even though I was in an adult body and had a master's degree and had achieved all these great things and had beauty in a sense and had attraction coming in different ways, I was a child. Like I was a little child that was like fending for food, that was selfish, that was very scarce, that, if I had any money, I was hoarding it because I was afraid that I wouldn't have it in the next moment.
Understandably, if that's where you've come from.
But for other people, it's like understandable for me, but to connect with the external world, I was a very challenging friend, lover, partner, collaborator, coworker, employee.
Can you give us an example then?
I never really took direction very well because I had never had parents that were present. I was always the leader. I did what I wanted. There was a time when I was homeless and I was having to fend for myself, fend for my food, fend for shelter. And so I was the master of my life. I was the steerer of the ship. And so as I got older and had jobs and partners, when you come into relationship, it is a collaboration. You have to consider one another. And I never learned how to consider anyone. My world revolved around me surviving. And so what I thought was other people's what is the word I could use here? Where I thought other people were falling short on giving me what I needed and allowing me to take up space, other people were seeing as like very stubborn and very pushy and very selfish. And so I was living in this whole delusional world that the world owed me something. And I think many of us walk around that way. We get hurt, whether it's a broken heart or it's a broken home, and we expect that everyone outside of us is going to meet a need that hasn't been met for us. And so we bleed all over everyone for the wounds that other people have created.
I think that's quite an elegant way to put it as
Yeah.
well. I can definitely relate it from my own side. It's beautiful to see that you've got that awareness as well. So I'm curious, you've gone from hustling as this little 12-year-old. You said you had a master's as well.
Yeah.
So it is something you took in America.
Yeah.
So what was the master's in?
So I did my first degree in international studies in Spanish with a minor in history and anthropology because I can't make up my mind about what I want to do. So I needed 4 subjects. And my master's was in public administration and political science. So I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to save the world. I thought I had the capacity to like go out and save the world and help all the children that had been through all the things that I had been through. And after I got out of college and worked in a law office for a bit, I realized that my capacity was not at a place where I could really help anyone else because I really needed to help myself and heal before I could help anyone else. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that whole Gandhi principle of being the change.
Yeah.
And if you've got a glass that's half empty, sorry, not empty, a cup that's empty, how are you supposed to give somebody else? Yeah, so you've gone from wanting to be a lawyer saving the world. Now, from what I can see, that's not actually materialized. So how have we gone from lawyer who wanted to save the world to where we are now? Because clearly something happened.
Well, my whole life has been like a very mystical, magical stream of unfolding events. For me, very much mysticism and hermeticism and the world of like magic is real beyond any other truths. And I feel like from one step to the next, I've always been led. And no matter how dark my past has been, and still tragedy has been such a big part of my life, like so many deaths, so many sicknesses, so much abandonment and rejection and loss. And yet I have such a magical life. I have so many opportunities, collaborations, and connections around the world. And it's always been like these dark teachings that have been initiations and portals into the next level or the step of my life. And I did not like law after I finished law school.
I did A-level law, and that was enough for me.
I got into a very prestigious law. My throat is hurting today. But I got into a very prestigious law office in Texas that so many people wanted to...
Some water.
Yes, I'll have some water. Thank you.
Some I made earlier.
I've been teaching too much yoga.
You have been doing a lot. I appreciate you fitting me in, to be honest.
So as I was working at this prestigious law office that I really just I strived hard to get a position in, I got there and I immediately didn't want it. And the law office, the founders were amazing. Like if I was going to work in law, I would go back to this office because they really cared about who they worked with and who they worked for. And so it was beautiful. Like I was in a beautiful setting for what I had studied for 6 years, but my heart was just like, I'm not in this. And so I remember one day I had some friends from Australia visiting and they were trying to convince me to go on holiday. And I was like, I can't go on holiday. I just graduated from grad school. I've only been working at the law office 6 months. I can't ask for a holiday.
Yeah.
That's like absurd. And they just kept pushing and pushing. And then they were going to be leaving 2 days later. And at this point, I went into the office and I was always going around to other people's offices and delivering mail. Like when the mail guy would come into the law firm, I would take the basket and I would deliver the mail. And the founders, they were just like, you got to stop delivering the mail. You're supposed to be doing casework in your office. Stop delivering the mail. But I loved talking to people. I wanted to be friends with people. The office was big. I wanted to communicate and connect. And I felt so bored sitting in an office doing casework. And so they brought me into the office that day and so kindly they said, you're going to have your own TV show one day. And I was like, what do you even mean by that? And they're like, you don't belong in four walls. Like, this is not for you. You're not happy here. And I just looked at them and I was like, I'm not happy here. And they're like, we're not firing you, but we're saying like you need to go out into the world and do something different.
They do sound quite...
They were amazing.
Yeah.
They were so amazing. And they gave me a very nice amount of money to transition into my next job, which I didn't use to transition to a new job.
What did you use it for?
Decided when I got home, I told my friends from Australia, I said, guys, I got let go today. And they were like, oh no. And I was like, and they gave me a pretty good amount of money.
What shall
And
we
they go,
do?
oh my God, you're coming to Mexico with us. And so 2 days later, I get in a bus and we travel by bus from Texas to Mexico.
Is this where the real journey starts then now?
I had already been traveling before then, but this is when I like really just left my life, the structured life behind, because I didn't tell anyone. All my best friends, I didn't tell anyone. I just got on the bus, I went to Mexico, and my friends finally, after a few days or a week of not seeing me, they're like, where are you? And I'm like, oh, I actually went to Mexico to go surfing. I left my job. And they were like, wait, so you finished grad school, you had a job at a law firm, you got let go, and then you went to Mexico? Are you having like a quarter life crisis?
As you do.
Yeah. And I said, well, I'm just going to travel until I run out of money. And because I was such a hustler from being 12 years old, I think at that time I had $2,000, which is not a huge amount of money. But I somehow lived off of that for 4 months in Mexico, just like scounging by and just eating very little and sleeping in rooms with like 15 other travelers. And
how was that? Obviously you've gone from law firm.
It was heaven.
That. So that was actually you in your element.
Yeah, it was freedom. And we collected, there was about 15 of us traveling from that time that had all done a winter season in Vancouver and in Whistler in Canada together before.
I so want to go to Whistler as well.
And so we all ended up together traveling through Mexico. We went to Guatemala. We went to, where else did we go? We went to a few countries in Central America. And then I didn't come back for 4 months. And that was the beginning of this nomadic lifestyle and not really ever being in one place for longer than a year after that. It's been about 17 years now.
So you're not exactly averse to this sort of life, but does it become a point where you do miss that route? Having that stable, that home, that structure that you did have and now is gone?
It's interesting to be asked that today because I was talking to a dear friend yesterday about this, Texas is like calling me right now. And I never thought I'd end up in Texas. You know, I've traveled all of the world. I've like gone to all the corners and met so many beautiful people and been in so many cultures. And I had such an aversion to Texas. It was like, oh, Texas is conditioned and it's small-minded and it's limited and da-da-da-da-da. And something that came to me when I was actually living in Japan this past winter is I was sitting in my room and I was meditating and I was in a really dark place. Like I was feeling very lonely. I was feeling isolated. It was the middle of winter, but I spend most of my winters isolated, snowboarding and just in the mountains. And the words came to me that there is nothing that I can't do elsewhere that I can't do right here. And so as I was in this small room with a bunk bed, it's dark, the snow has like filled up all of the light from the window, and I'm alone, and I'm in a country where I speak the language a bit. You know, I've spent 7 winters there, but it's mostly Australians in the snowboarding season and Japanese, and there's a lot of drinking, and I feel lonely there. And so as I sat there...
So you don't drink then?
I don't drink.
Okay.
No alcohol for me. And
How long's that been for?
My entire life. I've never drank. I've never been...
Just never felt called to...
Never felt called to it, yeah.
Because being from Manchester, I was the opposite.
Well, you're from the UK, I'm from Texas. We love to drink.
So you understand that.
We're odd.
Whereas for me,
odd.
it was, I wasn't you where I never did it. It was I did it too much.
Yeah.
I've absolutely had in my fill of alcohol. Please never give me a drop again.
Yeah.
But for you, you've just never felt okay.
That's most people's story. And I think... I mean, it makes sense. Like alcoholism and alcohol and drinking and drugs and substances, a lot of it's a form of escapism. You know, like one of my favorite quotes by Gabor Mate, who I love so much, who is a leading researcher in trauma work. He says, you know, we're not addicted to alcohol or substances. We're addicted to escaping our pain. And that's what this is. It's like this escapism. And so for me, the reason that I never touched it is because I grew up in like a drug den. My mother was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and I grew up in a home that had a lot of that happening. And so when you grow up with that and you see it, you know, I wanted to be everything that my mother wasn't. Okay. And so I was like, I will not touch this. So I went in a completely different direction.
Have you ever?
I've tasted alcohol, but I've never had like a cup of alcohol or been drunk, yeah.
So you, I know one thing you was wanting to talk about as well, something I'm passionate about, is the medicine.
Oh, yes.
So,
well, let me finish this one thought, because now I'm thinking about
do.
this room in Japan. When I was sitting there and this thought came through of, you know, I can't, there's nothing that I can do elsewhere that I can't do here. That was a profound moment for me, because I think for so many of us, like we have this idea of, oh, like maybe you, I'm from the UK, I want to get out in the world and I want to explore, and there's so much more than just the UK, and it's this island and it rains and it's cold, and let me out. You know, I hear so many people say
especially
that from
Manchester.
the UK. Yeah, exactly. What I come to realize is a lot of us that go on these world tours and work with, you know, plant and animal medicine and do shadow work and trauma integration, is that you end up exactly where you started, but it's like a spiral or a funnel if you think about it. It's like you think that you're back at the beginning of the circle, but you're actually at a way deeper level to where you can be effective or helpful in that environment without the pain and the attachment of what it has done for you or what it hasn't done. And I think for me, if I had have gone back to Texas, say 10 years ago, when I was still in my victimization of like what my mother did to me or my father not being there, or this terrible town that I was from, all these projections I had, I would have gone back and seen the darkness of what it wasn't for me. But now if I end up going back, who knows, because I might be on the road for another 20 years. But if I end up going back, I think that the remaining family members that are alive and my hometown and the few people from my childhood that still exist there would be an openness and a compassion for them not needing to actually be anything for me finally being what I needed for me.
You've already filled the holes.
I filled the holes. And so I can go back with abundance of love and acceptance, and not with my judgments and my righteousness and my, you need to do this for me, I need this. And that thing that I had for so long of the world owes me something, and know that the world actually owes me nothing, and that we all suffer, and that if I go back, maybe I could be a positive influence for the family members of mine that still live.
I don't think I doubt you being a positive influence.
Thank you. But it's funny that you say that, right? You know, I've gone out into the world and I have become, you know, a teacher and a leader in some rights, and this shadow work integration guide and working with plant and animal medicine. And there are family members that are still alive. There's not many that really don't like me so much, you know, that see me as righteous and see that I abandoned the family and that I left everything behind, not understanding that I left when I was 12 and that I needed to care for myself because they couldn't care for me, or that I was abused in many ways, you know, physically and sexually. But in their minds, I left and I'm the righteous one. And so it's so interesting for so many of us that are trying to heal, that are trying to walk this path, that are walking the path of medicine or walking the path of healing. We are the black sheep of our families, and our families reject us. And that almost gives us the fuel to go out and create the global family and to give that love in a way that can be received because our own tribe can't receive it. But I think maybe for me, and who knows if this story gets to get told, but maybe for me, the medicine now is to bring that home.
So let's move on to the medicine.
And to penetrate the family with medicine.
Penetrate the family with medicine. That's a quote.
Yeah.
So when was the first time you were introduced to the medicine then?
Well, interestingly enough, you know, and I'm speaking about this in like a vast way because there are so many different types of medicines.
Of course.
But you know, the first medicine for me was yoga and meditation.
Beautiful.
And that was around 20 years old. And spirituality, the path of philosophy, I found myself as a teenager even like in love with Kant and Jung and Nietzsche, like, you know, there's hopeful nihilism. And philosophy was that first medicine for me. Yoga got me out of my mind and into my body, and meditation helped me become an ally with my mind.
I think it's, sorry to interrupt, I just think people weren't probably expecting you to say yoga and
Yeah.
meditation and philosophy as medicine. Obviously, people always think of medicine as something tangible.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a plant, maybe it's a herb, whatever it is. So the fact that you said that even shocked me.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really beautiful way of looking at those modalities.
Yeah.
So yoga, obviously you are known for yoga.
Yes, I am. Well, I feel that the medicines that came into my life only in my mid-30s, because I didn't touch anything. Like, I didn't touch alcohol, I didn't touch substances, drugs, or plant and animal medicines until my mid-30s. I feel the seed of yoga, the seed of philosophy, the seed of spirituality, all of those medicines that were very intangible, but very much felt in my body, in my heart, in my mind. They created a wholeness in me and a spaciousness to allow physical, like tangible plant and animal medicine into my body. And the alchemy of the two is what created like the most profound shift in me. And had the foundation of yoga and meditation not been there, it could have just become a drug.
Because some people have got this mindset of, if we just put LSD into the water supply and everybody had a bit, but if these people don't have that foundation, that because for myself on a personal level, if I didn't have meditation, some of the overwhelming experiences, I'd have been victim. I may have re-traumatized myself. And
Absolutely.
There've actually been circumstances where I have, and then beautifully, because my meditation practice has developed, I've then realized, oh, I was resisting this sensation, or I wasn't allowing this vibration to be transmuted.
Yeah.
So the fact that you've used, I think, that way round, it really speaks to the wisdom of maybe even the universe allowing you to find that first, and then the second one came later.
That's the mysticism. Like, it's not even, it's not irony to me. It's like, when I was very young, because I grew up in a household with so much drugs and alcoholism and sexual abuse and physical abuse. I mean, my mother was literally like dragging me around the house, and many broken bones and many black eyes. And at that point, when you're that small and that helpless, I looked to God. Like I was like a born again Christian when I was a kid. Now I would laugh at that. I wouldn't laugh at it now, but I wouldn't see myself being under Christian doctrine now. I would read it and respect what is there.
Yeah, because
it's all coming,
have some beautiful truths in them.
Yeah, it's all coming from the same place. But at that point, God was my escapism. So instead of choosing drugs like my mother and alcohol, I chose God. And in a way that can be praised, where people are like, wow, you're so good, you're holy, you're religious. But I wasn't going to God because I was religious. I was going to God because I was helpless. And I was desperate. Yeah. And I was like, all right, holy man in the sky with your flip-flops on, like, Jesus Cristo, you give me donuts on Sunday at church and I get to eat the Krispy Kreme donuts with sprinkles, like I'm in. There's food here, like the people are friendly and they don't hit me. So I was a super, super, super Christian. And the reason I bring this up is because for me, that was at 5 years old that I found God, and the mysticism and the magic began in my life, where it wasn't just ironic that happened, because Christianity led me to philosophy led me to spirituality led me to yoga, meditation and yoga opened me to having an expansive heart expression and letting life come in a curious way, where plant and animal medicine then it found me. So it's like, for the plant and animal medicine to find me at 35, at 5 years old, I had to have this spiritual experience with this man named God.
Almost, how could this have happened? How could it gone any other way?
Yeah, exactly. And so when people, like you said, it actually gave me chill bumps when you were saying it, because it makes me sad for our naivete and our audaciousness as a human race to think like, oh, we could just put LSD in the water. If everybody ate mushrooms, the world would be a better place.
I think it screams to our, we still want something external to come and fix everything.
Yeah.
Is there a pill? Is there a person?
And we want something fast. We're so like, we want like easy gratification, and we need to do the work first. Like, we need to be able to sit with our discomfort. We have become a society that is so plagued by comfort.
Do you know what? Somebody, have you heard of Trevor Hall?
Oh, of course.
Of course. For those who haven't,
Trev, we love Trev.
The song that comes to mind when you say that is "You Can't Rush Your Healing."
This is literally one of my favorite songs. The fact that that
song found us. Me and my girlfriend, we actually had a playlist on. We were having a ceremony. The playlist, please know it's a beautiful song. Check it out, guys, if you've not heard it. But then we didn't even
Trevor
know who
sings it
Trevor
much more
Hall
beautifully
was.
than me.
And then all of a sudden this song came on. You can trust your healing. And I'm just like, what is... And darkness has its teachings.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think that sums it up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I that literally, like, I was addicted to that song for years. And I've seen Trevor. I've met him in Bali.
Jealous.
And his music is beautiful. But it's so true. Like, I'm so happy that we have these resources and that people like us are having conversations like these that people will be exposed to, because so many people are curious now. It's become a fad to do trauma work, to do shadow work, to do plant and animal medicine. And it's almost a thing to just like tick off and put on your Instagram and show.
Bufo, done.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca, done.
Yeah, look, I did this thing. And
What is
here's
next?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And working with plant and animal medicine now, what I have received from the medicine is, I never wanted to work with medicine. If anything, I judged it because my mother was a drug addict.
Oh, I called it psychedelicals.
Yeah.
That was that was where I was at. My girlfriend said, I'm thinking about doing, and I'm like, whoa, all the horror stories.
Yeah.
Jumping out of windows, peeling your skin, thinking you're an orange.
Yeah.
Obviously, ignorance was taken
And
over.
I thought people were out of control, and why, if you can't heal yourself without these things, then you're just weak. Like, you shouldn't need these things. It was like therapy as well. I thought therapy was terrible. If you couldn't figure out your own problems, then you were just a weak person.
Asking for help.
Yeah, asking for help.
Are you?
You should figure it out yourself.
Sort it out.
Yeah. And so what I've learned now is psychedelics, plant and animal medicines, they are allies, but they need to be used in the right way.
Reverence.
And when they're disrespected and we're not ready for them, they cause more harm.
You're going to get spanked.
Yeah.
I know for myself, I used to be
Yeah.
a drug addict, just so you're aware. And that was a lot of different things, but mainly weed got to the point because I eliminated everything else. So we're talking £50 a day on weed. And then when I finally just released myself from the shackles of that, I foolishly started having too many psychedelics.
Ugh.
One thing to do if you're trying to escape how you feel is probably not have psychedelics.
Yeah.
Because they're going to make you feel it more. They're going to make you experience, they're going to amplify it. And sort of like that spank on the bottom I got a few times. And it was, I'm so grateful that I had meditation to bring the wisdom of insight that
To integrate.
they were not trying to hurt me.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready, and they were showing me I wasn't ready,
Yeah.
and I was not treating them with reverence.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was in a relationship, a very toxic relationship, my last toxic relationship of this lifetime, I hope, about 4 years ago with a shaman. And so he is who brought psychedelics into my world. And for that, I'm grateful. And again, it's one of these mystical experiences where he came into my life in a very magical way. And I, and he probably as well, we got confused thinking that this was going to be this beautiful love story, but really it was the biggest trauma bond of both of our lives, I believe, and deep codependency. And from what I would say on my side, I experienced was very, very overt narcissistic, like abuse from him. And what I experienced in that relationship with a shaman, somebody connected to the medicine that hasn't done his healing, where there was a lot of still attachment wounds and mom projections being projected onto the relationship, was he was leading us down a path of using medicine to bypass what we really need to do,
I do meet so many
in the
people
relationship.
that
Yeah.
just think that
Let's just get high together and we'll just have a great time. And we don't have to think about all of our attachment wounds and our codependency, but we'll just have great sex and we'll have a wonderful psychedelic time and it will be great. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was incredibly beautiful and also incredibly painful because I had never reached that level of codependency in a relationship in my life.
How was that for you then?
I was so powerless. I was so, I don't like to use this word towards anyone else, but I was pathetic in that space. I completely gave up all my power.
You're not judging yourself there. You're just being honest.
Like, just I'm being honest, and also I have such compassion for that 35-year-old version of me that had been so hurt in life and had so many mommy and daddy issues and had so many abandonment wounds that she was prone to being in a relationship with somebody that would treat her with such little respect and little respect for sovereignty and for safety, because there was so much betrayal and so much illusion. And this partner was a shaman, but also a therapist. And so he had educational tools at this time around knowing what I was going through and what I was carrying, because he knew my trauma.
Power then.
Exactly. And it felt very much like a hierarchical abuse of power, in the sense that he knew what was potentially happening within my world. And the codependency continued, and he continued to take me into psychedelic spaces, which of course I am a sovereign being that has my own choice, but I didn't have the power in that time to choose for myself, because I was in love, or I was obsessed. I wouldn't say I was in love, but I was obsessed. I was addicted to this trauma bond that we were in. So I did all the psychedelics, and I went into all the sexual spaces, and I opened all the doors of my mind where all my sexual abuse was from my childhood, all my physical abuse, all my abandonment, all my rejection. It was like all of my shit just got blown up. Like all the medicine did what it needed to do, which was to show me what needed to be healed. But I was in the least healing environment with the person with the least capacity to hold space for what I was going through. I had no therapist because I rejected therapy thinking it was for weak people. So I completely fell apart. It was like a complete mental fragmentation. Like I lost 16 pounds. I didn't sleep. I went through 3 cancer scares. I had to have surgeries on my cervix. And I mean, so much happened in that time, and I was just powerless. And it took him leaving and me completely being brought to my knees.
So he left then?
He left. And thank goodness that he did. And we still haven't spoken since that time. But if I could say anything to him now, it would be like, thank you. Thank you for all of it. The horror of that relationship and the pain that I experienced in it brought about the newest beginning that I was.
When did that end? Sorry.
This was right before I turned 36. So only 3 years, like a little over 3 years ago.
And there's been no relationship
since?
No
Partnership.
Was that an aware choice, a conscious choice that you made?
For no partnerships? Yeah, it's definitely an awareness. My boundaries are very expansive these days. I joke with my friends that I have a castle wall around me, and there are 2 moats with crocodiles. And that if you want to get through, like, I've got lots of needs, lots of requests, lots of boundaries that we're gonna have to talk about before I can get into a partnership. But that relationship was a litmus test for everything I will not tolerate in terms of interrelational dynamics. It's everything that I do not want in intimacy, and it's taught me what I do want, and I'm still figuring that out. And so just like my mother, who was one of my biggest abusers when I was a child, I love her now. She's passed, she's died. We have a great relationship past death because I don't have to tolerate her physicalness in this realm. But I now see all the needs that weren't met on her side of things. She's not the villain. She was just suffering so much that the way she treated me was a hatred for her own self. It really wasn't personal.
It's when you realize it wasn't personal that the forgiveness comes almost.
And it's hard to do with our parents, right? Because we expect them to love us and to feed us and to house us. But she was also just a fragmented woman looking for love, and she thought maybe she'd find that in a child. And she didn't, because it's selfless to be a mother. And she didn't receive anything from me. I just needed. It was like constant, feed me, clothe me, put a roof over my head. Yeah. I'm like a freeloader. As a child, we're just a bunch of freeloaders on our parents. So I have so much love for her. And I wish that she was here today so that I could create a relationship with her. And this partner of mine, if someday down the road there is an opportunity for brother and sisterhood, like, he's a brother. We went to war together. It's like we entered the battlefield and we died in many ways, and we didn't come off the field together. But in my heart, we're connected forever, and we went through something so painful. And I know for me, it has created a warrior of love now, not a warrior of fear. Like, I am a warrior with resilience.
We need some more warriors of love.
Yes, and I hope that he's become a warrior of love. Like, I pray that he is loving people now, and that he is holding them, and that he is experiencing that. And I hope that for myself too, like in my next partnership.
Are you tired of feeling run down? Maybe you're struggling with some sort of health condition, or it could be as simple as you're not reaching your fullest potential. Well, I found a solution. Isabella Nutrition's here to transform your life, show you the incredible healing power of nature. Let me just introduce to you Isabella Bradford Johnson. a skilled naturopathic nutritionist with a passion for showing you how to achieve optimum health, well-being, with tailor-made nutrition and lifestyle plans. She'll show you how to fill your life with vitality, renewed energy. Now, Isabella firmly believes that your body holds the key to your healing. She just wants to show you how to unlock it. Through the power of lifestyle and diet changes, Isabella will show you how to heal from within. Be that best version of yourself. Now, whether you're looking to improve your overall health or target a specific area, maybe it's gut or hormonal issues where she specialises, Isabella will have expert guidance and support to show you how to have a future filled with joy. Now, it's not about quick fixes, short-term solutions. No, it's about long-term transformation, sustainable results. So stop waiting to take care of your health. Go down to www.isabellabradfordjohnsonnutritionist.uk. Book a consultation with Isabella today. Embark on a journey filled with health, vitality, lasting well-being. Isabella Nutrition, empowering you to live your healthiest life.
I'd like to move on to the fact that you're not just keeping this all to yourself. Obviously, if people are listening to a word you've said, you have got this wisdom, you have got something about you that's really seeing life, the opportunities, turning those obstacles into opportunities. But you, obviously, from what we're looking at, from what you told me, we've got shadow integration. We're trying to teach people yoga, which we're not just keeping it to ourselves. Can we move on to the fact that you are trying to spread some of the stuff that you're doing as well for people so they're aware of it?
Well, yeah. So I love the synchronicity of these things when they come in. So it's like, as I talk to you and as I'm speaking, like I'm processing my own life and my own unfolding. And something that's happened in the last few days, and I'll speak to it here and see how it unfolds because I'm still processing it. You know, I started my YouTube channel right before COVID, and then COVID happened and I was in this toxic relationship and I was stuck in a home with this person, and, you know, we went through our death portal, and I started a YouTube channel because I couldn't work in any of the places around the world that I was used to working. And I was working for a very famous YouTube channel that brought me onto their channel, and then I started my own so that more people could come to my channel from theirs. And so it just happened very organically because my friend had worked for them. And so I didn't seek out to be some online teacher or an online spokesperson for yoga or philosophy. It just landed in my lap like most of life has unfolded. So again, I didn't even realize what was happening. And only now, you know, almost 5 years later of having the channel, am I seeing the impact of it and understanding what it means. Because then it was like, oh, cool, I'll just film my yoga classes and I'll just put them on YouTube, and the people that do yoga with me around the world will have a little practice with me whenever they want it. No big deal. It'll be a portfolio for when I go back to working in retreats, and I can show my teachings there. And what happened essentially is because I was going through all these plant and animal medicine ceremonies and, you know, integrating slowly and not so well at certain times, I was breaking down and I was also building back up. So it was like constant ruptures and repairs. And what I joked about with a friend the other day is like, I think my awakening was like televised essentially, because I was falling apart at that time. And some of those practices, they're crystallized in a time when I was bleeding. You know, I was emotionally bleeding out. I was dying inside. I was experiencing these ego deaths. I was feeling abandoned, rejected, all of the things that we all feel, that everybody feels. And each day, those videos, they still get comments on them of people that are doing a practice that was 5 years ago for me, but for them in this moment, it is exactly what they need. And they find a friend in it and an ally, and they're like, I'm crying on my mat and I've just watched your video on heartbreak and yoga, and oh my God, it's exactly what I needed. Like, how did you know what I needed to hear? And
it's
so,
not just stretching.
Yeah.
It's not just stretching out after exercise. It's almost aligning yourself with the geometry of the universe. From the way I
and because
it.
I'm such a feeling person, I was never an asana teacher, which is a posture teacher. I was always like a secret philosopher using yoga as a platform to get people to listen to these philosophical or existential questions while stretching. And so I joke that it's like my awakening was televised. And as I was, you know, awakening to my potential, my ability to love myself, my ability to self-heal, I I crystallize that for other people to use. And so I'm not healing anybody. I don't think I'm a healer, but I put the tools up of what I was going through in my rupture and repair. And the people that relate to it, they find it somehow magically. Call it SEO or whatever the technical gods are on the internet. But somehow people are finding it, and I've never paid for marketing. I've never like pushed anything or forced it. It's just naturally growing.
Might be why, you know.
Yeah.
Because if you're not resonating with this want, I want, well, you're going to resonate with that want, which means you don't have.
Yeah.
Whereas you'll just resonate with, I'm just doing.
Yeah.
And then people who are obviously seeking are just finding it serendipitously.
It's been beautiful.
There's a guiding hand that we can't see, however we want to put it.
Yeah. And even with, I'm so not a technical person. Like even starting my online school, that also happened during COVID when I was in this very difficult relationship. And I was just locked in a room, essentially isolated. I isolated myself because I was in a very abusive relationship and I didn't have any friends around. I was in his city in California and I felt alone. So I was like, what do I do when I feel alone? Let's create. And because I couldn't teach anywhere in the world, I was like, okay, I'm a filmmaker. I'll just film classes. I'll make an online school and I'll teach from right here on my computer. And so everything unfolded in this way. And it's grown more and more. And over the past few years, it's given me such freedom to work from anywhere in the world. And also, I think why it grew the way that it grew is when the YouTube channel started. I didn't even know that you can monetize a YouTube channel, and I never pushed any of the buttons for that.
So
and
it
I
was
was
never the intention.
No, and I was paying for the YouTube channel for like 4 years. I was paying to give people free yoga classes because I just was like, I just want to give this. Yeah. And then I got an assistant because it got too much for me to handle on my own, the school and the channel. And my assistant was like, Echo, it's as easy as pushing a button. Like, just monetize it so it can help pay for itself.
You have to show me that button.
Yeah. And so even at this point, still, the channel does not make any money. The channel barely pays for the editing and what I do to put stuff up. But I hope that one day it'll get to a point where it just is like balancing itself. But the relationships, the friendships, the student mentorships, the students that have become teachers on my program and mentors for other students, it has created this beautiful symbiotic network of people that are using this trauma-informed network to offer their practices and their tools for what has helped them in their healing. And it's become so much bigger than me. And I love that my name is Echo, and that
By the way, was that just you've not changed your name?
My mother gave me that name.
I love that. I thought that was your DJ name.
A lot of
we'll
people.
We'll get onto the DJ. But the first time I saw you was at Temple.
Yeah.
Shout out to Temple, by the way, down at Manchester.
And Nikki. Woo woo.
Yeah, Nikki, David, everybody that does that. It's a beautiful show. But that was the first time I saw you. And Echo, I'm thinking, well, that's a DJ name, of course.
Well, so interestingly enough, so the network as well is called Our Echo Yoga. And my mother gave me the name Echo, but my mother didn't raise me when I was younger. My grandmother did. So I do have another name on my birth certificate, which I won't say here because I don't like it.
No, you don't need to.
But Echo, I hated the name Echo when I was a kid because it's a weird name. And when my mom would call me that, I was like, what a weird hippie you are to call me Echo.
Have you ever had somebody shout it somewhere and it goes, Echo, Echo,
constantly.
Echo.
Like, are you kidding? Like, all the time. And so when my mother died, she died when I was 27. So this is about 12 years ago. And at this point, I still hated her. I still had hatred in my heart, even though I was a yogi and I was doing all the things.
It doesn't mean you're fully healed.
Yeah,
and
I wasn't embodying what I was teaching fully. I was still judging and hating and righteous, but I was doing it with this like soft external demeanor where I was still like love and light, but still.
I've seen a lot of you. If I just keep my voice at certain
Yes. I hate you, but I'm saying it really kindly. So when I had a hatred in my heart, I remember when I got the call that she was dying, and I actually said, I said a curse word that I won't say here, but I was like, bleep her. She's not my mother.
You're allowed to swear, just so you know.
Okay. Fuck her. She's not my mother. She can die. I said that out loud. And when I think that there was a version of me that was okay with saying this, it makes me really sad for how much pain I must have been in to say that. But I did go see her, and it was a very unique experience being at her bedside when she died. But when she died, I decided to go by Echo because it was the name she always called me. And we hadn't been in contact for 14 years when she died. So it felt like this honorary thing that I could do. for her. And I also got a tattoo on my right shoulder of her blowing out the bubbles of the universe, and all the bubbles are planets. And I was like, you're my creator.
That's
like,
pretty cool.
Thank you for giving me life. That's really all that you have to do as a parent. Like, you give me breath. Like,
What a gift.
It would have been great to have love and a house and all the other things and all these beautiful memories, but you gave me life. You gave me a human existence.
There is no echo.
Yeah. There's nothing more precious than that gift to carry me for 9 months and to give me birth. So I went by Echo, and only 2 years ago, when I was 37, did I ask my mother's best friend, because somebody said, why is your name Echo? And I said, I actually don't know. I never knew why she named me Echo. So I asked her best friend, who was also a quite interesting character and very much connected with her in the drug and alcohol world. And her friend was very funny. She said some very interesting things, but then she said, I don't know, we were out in a canyon one day, and she just said, Echo's the thing that always returns. And so
I like that.
It's that simple. My mother said it was the thing that always returns. And I didn't like this at first, because I thought, whoa, my pattern has been that I always return to unhealthy relationships or patterns.
Which shows where your mind was at as well.
Yeah. I was like, I want to switch that up. And so now I see our Echo and me as an Echo. Like, what is the thing you leave behind? What is your imprint? Because we're all going to be gone from this realm one day. And what are you going to leave behind when people say your name? Like, what's the energy that they're going to feel? And I hope that mine will be, curiosity and love and play and acceptance. Yeah.
It's not a bad little legacy, is it?
Yeah. Love.
So,
it's all love.
Obviously, you said that you've been nomadic for a while now. So, so this has been just intermittent, or have we had long stays at certain places? How have we what have we picked up on this journey as well? You're teaching yoga, but where's all this knowledge and expertise come from?
Well, I spent a lot of time in between all of my big travels at ashrams and spiritual centers. I'll give a few shout outs, like Tushita Meditation Center in Dharamsala, India is a silent meditation center that I sit at. And it's a classical tantric Buddhist teaching, and they teach from the Vajrayana and the Mahayana, and this has been widely inspirational for me. I also follow some of Osho's teachings, specifically at Afros in Greece. It's another ashram in Greece, and I've spent a lot of time in Bali, Thailand, Sri Lanka, and various parts of India studying as well, and gone through dozens of 200-hour and 300-hour yoga teacher trainings.
So you've not just winged it and done a little 10-hour.
Okay. I'm constantly reading books that come to me again in a mystical way. I don't ever pick them out. They literally, people just are like,
they find you.
They find me. And so many spiritual texts like Siddhartha and Shantaram and New Earth, these kind of books have been widely inspirational for me. And I do stay in one place when I'm called to stay in one place. I've spent a few years in Mexico, which is where my father's from, who I don't know well, but I feel my connection to the land there. I feel more Mexican than I do American.
Okay.
So I've spent time in Mexico. I've spent quite a bit of time in Guatemala, and I've done a year in different places like Australia and New Zealand. And when life calls me to sit, I sit. It's like when I was.
So it's not this incessant movement.
No. And it's not like, sometimes I'm just like, life, like, I don't want to move. Like, what is this calling? I'll literally get a call, and there will be a collaboration or a project that feels important, and it can be helpful. And it feels like, okay, yes, my body is like, yes, we're going. And my mind goes, oh, I just like want to sit down.
Can I not just put
my feet I want a bathtub and a mug, and I just want to have a house like in the prairie or on the top of a mountain. And so I do feel that soon, like I've been getting a message that soon there will be a place that's more roots for me and more a base for me. But life continues to put me in these really beautiful collaborations and these beautiful places to give more. And I feel like this is my time of giving. And when I give, I also receive a lot. Like I receive so much in my friendships and love and resources. I have places to stay around the world, and which also gives me the freedom when I'm teaching online to rent beautiful places for myself and to feed myself nourishing food how I like. And so I'm receiving a lot from life right now while I'm also giving a lot. And I think it's my turn to give back, because I think for so much of my life, I was angry at the world and I was like, give me, and selfish. And I feel this is my time to be in service and also to have fun and DJ.
Do you find service is almost giving to yourself in a
absolutely
selfless way? Selfish selflessness.
Yeah, absolutely.
For you to generate that energy to give in the first place, well, it's quite pleasant.
I receive as much as I give, and like you were asking me about DJing earlier. I mean,
go on, let's get on to the DJ.
That came into my life because music has always moved me. Music also is a medicine for me. Music is a huge, probably one of the most influential medicines for me. And I remember I had my yoga school, my best friend, she was a DJ, and I was always inspired by her. And I tried to get her to teach me for years, and she just didn't. I think that was her thing, like.
Can we give her a shout out?
Brittany, I love you. DJ Honeypot, I love you. But I think it was her thing. And so she never got around to teaching me. And I reached out to a few other friends, Levi Banner, amazing DJ, and also Ben Templestep, an amazing DJ and producer. And they were friends of mine in Bali. And I was like, brothers, like, teach me how to DJ. And again, like, didn't have time and space. Maybe they were too cool at that time to be taking on mentees. But people just weren't receiving my request to do this. And so at some point, I had a student say, like, you should just put on a DJ set. Your music is amazing. Like, all your playlists on Spotify, all the mixes you make, they're really good. So I remember I was in Thailand working at a rehabilitation center in the middle of the forest. And one of the organizers, somebody had told him I was a DJ, which this is a lie that got around. I wasn't a DJ. But that lie got him to ask me, hey, do you think you could put on an ecstatic dance next week?
Fake it till you make it.
Exactly. So he asked me if I could put on an ecstatic dance the following week. And I just, before I could even comprehend, I said yes. And so I said yes to this guy that I'm going to like DJ a set at this
how could you not,
center.
after wanting it so much?
But I have nothing. I had no gear. I'm out in the middle of the forest in Thailand. And like he walks away and I'm thinking, what the fuck did I just agree to? Like I have no resources. And so I go into the big auditorium where the dance is going to be. And no joke, the mixer is literally called Echo Mixer. And I was like, it's a sign. I'm supposed to do it. The mixer is called Echo Mixer. And I found out a way that I could have my laptop and my phone both connected, and I could fade between my Spotify playlist on my computer and my Spotify playlist on my phone. And I couldn't do BPM matching or key matching, but I could do shitty fades essentially. And so I put on a dance the next week.
Considering where you were, shitty fades would probably be like, oh my God.
Exactly. And so the dance went so well. People like loved it. They requested for me to do it every week. It became a thing. And so, I went back. I think I went back to the States at this time. After a few months, I bought a mixer. And this is when I was again in this toxic relationship. COVID happened. I didn't know what to do because my boyfriend left me. And I was in his hometown and I wasn't going to stay there. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in the US, the place I don't want to be out of all places in COVID. Where do I go? And I couldn't get into Australia where I'd lived, or New Zealand, or Bali. Thailand, everything had shut down and it seemed like it wasn't going to open. So Mexico, my father's country, Mexico was calling me. And so I go to Mexico and I literally had other mystical callings that took me there. And I had bought a mixer. I went and I just started telling people I was a DJ because I had DJ'd a few sets.
I might just start doing that myself.
And because I was a woman and because my track selections were pretty good, I started a weekly dance that became over the time like up to 300 people at this dance, and became known as one of the like dance facilitators of that area, became pretty well known, and I was the only woman doing it. So then I start moving around Mexico and things just grew to me touring the world playing music.
Yeah, because you've just, was it Medicine Festival, Healing Festival?
Yeah, Agape Zoe.
David was, they're telling me, it's just, it said it was like ineffable.
Yeah.
Big shout out to David, by the way.
Yeah, Earth Wizardry, incredible.
This podcast would not be happening without his...
Literally.
Literally. So big shout out to you, David, as well. But go on, tell us about how the festivals have been.
Well, yeah, what was interesting, again, life just put things in my path to where when I think about it, music is not so different than me teaching yoga or meditation or doing shadow work or doing plant and animal medicine. It's just a different thing that gives you the same result. You're telling people, hey, be present. Like that's all you're offering. You're not even telling, you're just giving them.
Meditation is returning to thyself, that truest, the
Yeah.
formless, the timeless, the part of you that isn't thought, isn't identity. It is it just is.
When we meditate, it's presence. When we make love, it's presence. When we do yoga, it's presence. When we dance, it's presence. It's all the same thing. We just give it a different term because some people like one path more than the other.
I think sometimes as well, it's, there's more than one path up the mountain, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes dance is what I need.
Well, we create it we just want to have we want to tell ourselves we have different paths, but really it's all about presence. It's all the same. It's all the same.
Let's have fun that way.
And so, I have people that tell me, they're like, who DJs for 1 year in Mexico and then has 2 tours through Europe? It's like only you.
Echo, apparently.
Only that would happen to you. And so sometimes I do feel very charmed by life. Like I feel like life supports me and loves me so much. And I feel quite spoiled. Like I feel
that
like
must be quite comforting after the way that they felt. The fact that we've had that total 180.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, growing up and not having earthly parents that were like holding me, I felt like I had these parents up in the sky that were like holding space for me. Like, the Holy Mother, which is earth, and like Father Sky. It's like I have these elements that are intangible, but I feel them and I feel so loved and I'm so supported. And in the moments that I get into my earthly ego and I'm like, oh, I don't have a mom that cares for me or makes me soup or calls me and I could talk about recipes, or a father that, judges the men in my life and like makes sure that I'm safe. Life is constantly checking me. Life is constantly there holding me, and it also keeps me in integrity, and it also gives me opportunity, and it lets me play. It's like all the things that I love with dance, yoga, music. It's like, we're going to make all these things possible for you. Here's this and here's that.
Well,
and
I heard this phrase saying the gods made this reality for us to play, and we've just started taking it seriously.
I'm a big cosmic child.
Yeah.
Life has given me the opportunity to wear the role of being a DJ and a new producer and having a yoga school and all these things. I'm just a big child being given all these gifts from like Father Sky and Mother Earth, where I'm like, like the kid in the sandbox, but I'm just doing it in a different way. And so I'm enjoying my childhood now at 39. And so all that really treacherous time of being homeless and not having all the basic needs met, I'm just reliving that now. And so yes, I'm single and I don't have a home and I don't have all these things, but teenagers aren't supposed to have homes and partners and all these things. And I'm a teenager. I'm like
You've gone Benjamin Button, haven't you?
Yeah, I've gone Benjamin. I'm going backwards. So I probably will get to the point of
That's why you look so young then.
It's going backwards. So yeah, I think my first partnership and all the material things will come when I'm like 50. Yeah, I think it's all coming
Probably
much
the
later.
best age to get that as well, to be honest, when you're ready.
Yeah, this is good. And I'll work on myself. I'm just going to keep working on myself and healing as much as I can until all the things arrive. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So obviously I'm aware that you've probably got a million other things that you need to do, so we'll wrap it up.
1,000,003.
I want to give the people one last thing that you could leave them with, a taste of Echo. Who on earth is Echo? What Echo are we going to leave?
Who on earth is Echo? I think the most important thing that I've learned about Echo is that like she's nothing and she's everything. I was sitting in a peyote ceremony last year in Mexico. Maybe it was a year and a half ago, and it was a particularly difficult ceremony. If you're not familiar with peyote, you stay up all night through 4 gates, 12 hours, drinking this medicine that makes you purge.
This is cactus, right?
Yeah. And you're singing around a fire, and you're singing all your songs to the fire. And this will be my last little story here. Sorry if I'm taking a little longer.
Please do.
But one of the things about peyote, and I've sat in dozens of ceremonies at this point, and I've learned this lesson many times, but in the first gate, so say you have 4 gates and it's over 12 hours, each gate is a few hours. In the first gate, you're kind of like, why the fuck did I do this? This is terrible. It's late. I'm tired. I'm sitting around the fire with a bunch of hippies. Like, what are these tribal people going to do? What do I have to drink? What is this? So you're like questioning everything. You're not comfortable. It's cold. All the things come up. And they play this ridiculous violin that sounds terrible, and it's supposed to sound terrible, and you're supposed to get up and stomp and like move around so that the medicine moves through you. And I was just like, I hate this. Like, I don't want to do it. It's dumb. Why am I doing it? And then in the second gate, you kind of like, you feel a little defeated. And I feel like it's kind of the phases of life, right? As a kid, you're protesting. I don't want to do this. Why do I have to do it? And then you kind of learn the rules and you get used to it in the adolescent gate. And then by the third gate, you kind of like get into the groove of it and start to appreciate everybody. And you're just like, okay, this is good. And by the fourth gate, you're like, I don't want to go. Like, I love it. Like, it's amazing. But I remember in the second gate when I was still protesting a little bit, I had all this sickness in my stomach. And people were singing and sharing their songs. And in my opinion, at the time, a lot of people share songs that aren't so lovely to the ears and I didn't want to hear. And so I was a bit in my judgment and in my resistance. And the words came to me, make yourself small so that you can be big. And what it meant to me in that moment was like, kill yourself off, like your ego, your separation, this righteousness, your protest, like kill this part off so that you can be expansive, that you can lead, you can be a presence, like you can be this feeling of acceptance and love. And it just kept coming the whole night, like make yourself small to make yourself big. And that really helped me realize like how much that ego, like that separation, that individuation of like, I am Echo, I am this, like this is what it means to be me, how much suffering that creates. Because the more individuation, in which that's what we're preached in society, like be individual, be successful, be the most beautiful, be the most this and that makes us suffer so much. We're constantly striving for something. And so what it taught me was you're nothing. You're absolutely nothing. And when you die, it's not going to be that big of a deal. There's 8 billion people here. The world will go on. People will grieve, but the world will go on. And there can be some sadness in that where you're like, wait, like I'm not important. Like when I leave, it's not a big deal. But there was also weight lifted of, it actually doesn't matter so much. It doesn't matter then. You have such little time, and stop trying to be beautiful or stop trying to be effective or stop trying to be inspiring and just like be, be. And
experience this journey that you've been gifted.
And the more that you just be and you realize that you are nothing, the more like big you actually become. The less I care about trying to impress anybody or trying to be successful, the success comes, like the friends come, the love, like all of it comes when I stop thinking that it's about me and that I'm so, self-important.
It reminds me of this phrase I saw where there's two people and one of them's going, nobody cares, and somebody else is going, nobody cares.
I love that. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm at the place of like, I do see that things that I create in the world and offerings that I give, there is energy around them and it's becoming more expansive and on the dance floor in the yoga studio. But I also feel I'm less and less attached to like what I need to be for anyone. And I'm just like letting myself go in a way. I'm just like, let me be a mad woman. Like maybe I'll be perceived as crazy and wild and unhinged and raw.
So be it.
But so be it. I'm a creature. That's what Echo is. Echo is a creature of experience.
So what's next? Let's leave it at that.
What's next? I don't know. Life is unfolding.
I like that.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to promote? I know anything that's coming up for the guys, where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Our Echo on everything, like Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. And also I do have 2 yearly running programs. They run by like, why do you say that? Twice a year? Do you say bi-yearly? I don't even know. Or is that every 2 years?
I think bi-yearly means...
every 2 years.
Well, I think they know what you mean.
Okay. Yeah, anyways.
We sounded so smart, didn't we, until that?
Each year, Detangling the Human Heart, which is a month-long program, I run this, and this is coming up soon. And also I run a 200 and 300-hour yoga teacher training. This is not just for people that want to be yoga teachers. It's for people that want to go on a 5-month journey with me online. And for the hybrid, it's 3 months online, 2 weeks in person. But for those that want to deep dive into their own foundation and basically like tear the foundation up and go through the rupture and the repair before being leaders of any kind of like teachings. So if you want to teach further down the road, you do receive an international certification, but it's not necessary to want to teach. It's just about wanting to know yourself deeper. And the month-long program, Detangling the Human Heart, is all about attachment theory, nervous system regulation, trauma bonding, codependency, all the interrelational goop that we get into when we don't love ourselves and we don't accept ourselves. So this program has been, profoundly beautiful to run and to hold space for. So these are my two biggest offerings. And I also do one-on-one sessions for those that want to go deeper into their own mentoring. And that's me. So find me.
We'll put those links out as well when the podcast comes out. But apart from that, I think I speak for everyone to say thanks for coming on Who on Earth.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be the first. And I want to say deep blessings to you on your journey with podcasting. It is a profound journey to go on. And I'm excited for the knowledge that's going to sit in front of this space and be filtered through you out into the world. So
I think you were a perfect preview for what the guys can expect.
Yeah.
I don't think I could. I think it would, like you said, we hadn't even planned it, had we? We were going to an ecstatic dance. Arignani by David at Transmutant. I was just like, hey, you're interesting.
Yeah. It's like, I'm doing a podcast and you're interesting.
And that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then part of me was, the stressor part was coming up of, I need to get this. She's really, there's something about this person I need to get. And then it's like, just release.
Yeah.
And the second I released it, I came back in and David was like, sorted it.
Of course.
It was like, of course.
Yes.
Of course. How many times am I going to...
And now we're going to drink cacao.
We are.
Yes.
Cacao.
Oh.
To me, that's actually... It's subtle, but it's such a beautiful medicine itself. Like, it really is. Right, I feel like I could talk to you all day, but I'm going to let you go because I know you've got so much to do. Guys, I'll put the links on, but thanks for listening to the first episode of Who on Earth with Echo.
Ow, ow.
Woo!
Well, there you have it. First episode of Who on Earth is complete. Echo Widmer. I hope you enjoyed listening to her story as much as I did. Again, apologies about the whole mic blocking faces and a few not quite as perfect as I'd like bits. But apart from that, I hope the conversation just inspired you. Because obviously, you see a lot on the news and stuff going on, like toxicity and doom and gloom, and there's nothing, no inspiration, no reason to be motivated. Well, I hope Echo's story of going from where she was to where she ended up and still is progressing is that inspiration, because the flower, well, it needs the rain to grow. And it's in the darkest of caves that the brightest of lights shine. Echo, I believe, is one of those lights. Just being in her presence alone just makes you feel a bit happier, a bit better, a bit more capable of just enjoying the moment. So go check out her stuff. I'll put all the links for her Insight Time, her Instagrams, websites. Go check Echo out. Couldn't recommend more. You've heard what she's had to say. Also, I'll put a link for the Transmute crew, for Isabella Nutrition, and where to find meditation with Michael, yours truly. And I'm really excited to bring forth the next episode 2 with Craig Seaton. We've got lucid dreaming, breathwork, plant and animal medicines, and so much more. He's a very interesting fella, he is. But apart from that, thanks for watching the first episode of Who on Earth. I would love some shares, some likes, whatever you can do. It's a new little channel, new little podcast that I'm doing. So any extra sharing is appreciated. But guys, be that light. If we can do it, so can you. Peace and love, guys.